Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And we got some breaking news here. Josh Jacobs has agreed to sign with the Green Bay Packers. So instead of him rejoining the Silver and Black, he rejoins his old buddy, Rich Bisaccia, in Green Bay. Coming up here on today's show, I'm going to get into the latest around Jacobs signing with the Packers and what does this mean for Antonio Pierce. What does this mean for Tom Telesco? Will they sign a running back in free agency, or will they just concentrate on the 2024 NFL Draft? But to make sure that you never miss anything, subscribe, turn on those notifications. I told you, when free agency happens, it's going to be in a whirlwind. We already broke down Christian Wilkins signing. I broke down on yesterday that Andre James signed. We were talking about Amir Abdullah. If you want videos every day for free around the Raiders, hit that subscribe button. I promise you, nobody's going to keep you up to date the way that we do here. So some other deals that ended up going down today, and at the time that I'm making this video, we do not have the contract details out on Josh Jacobs quite yet. But what we do know is DeAndre Swift, he signed with the Chicago Bears for 3 years, $24 million with $15.3 million guaranteed. Then another deal ended up going down at the running back position. Tony Pollard, he ended up signing with the Tennessee Titans 3 years, $24 million. So to me, based on those numbers and those numbers alone, I am anticipating that Jacobs is going to be somewhere in that $10, $11, $12 million per year mark. Potentially Green Bay decided to pay a little bit more, but I'll tell you this, the fact that they got Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, and that two-headed backfield, like they're moving on from A.J. Dillon. He's not going to be back, but for the Packers, they're investing a lot of money in the running back position right now, which I do find a little bit peculiar, but I want to know from the nation out there, was it smart to not bring back Jacobs? Give me a yes, give me a no, because what I want to put out there is this. The Raiders tried, okay? I talked to Jacobs' team earlier last week, and they said that both teams were trying to get a deal done, okay? However, obviously that deal was not able to get reached. So was it a smart move not to sign Jacobs? Give me a yes, give me a no. I could spin this in two different ways, okay? The way that I'm going to spin it is this. First off, I do think it's a smart move not to bring back Jacobs, because if you were telling me right now it's $11, $12 million to bring back a running back, I'm not really thinking that that's a smart move to allocate that type of money. Again, the money that I would have given Jacobs would have been somewhere around $8.5 million per year. And that was like my max I was willing to go. Las Vegas instead decided to allocate their money at center at Andre James, which if you told me 3 years, $24 million from Andre James or 3 years, $24 million for Josh Jacobs, I'm taking Andre James every day of the week. It's just the more important position. But then you decided to give more money to Christian Wilkins. That's a win. The only way that this is going to be a loss to me is if the Raiders still believe that they need to sign a free agent running back and you go out and you try to sign a Gus Edwards or a Deonta Foreman, and you give them a little bit too much money. I am hoping, and the only way that this is a clear win for the Raiders is if the Raiders draft a running back. Now, maybe that's somebody like a Marshawn Lloyd. Maybe that's somebody like a Ray Davis. You address that need on day 3 of the NFL Draft. You pair him with Zamir White and Amir Abdullah, and you continue to move. Don't get me wrong. This is going to be a difficult move for the Silver and Black, considering the fact that I know Raider fans were so connected to Josh Jacobs. But on top of that, though, you're looking at a back that, let's face it, he was not very good last season. And yes, the quarterback play deserves a lot of blame. Teams were stacking the box with Brian Hoyer, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Aiden O'Connell. But for people that legitimately watched Jacobs last season, he was slower. He was not ready to go right away. And I would rather the Raiders address other needs and then figure out the running back position, not pay your running back and then figure out your offensive line. I mean, 3.5 yards per carry. This is not the type of back that you would typically give all that money to. Like, the only way that I was going to be okay with the idea of bringing back Jacobs is if he was willing to take a team-friendly type of deal. Now, again, we do not know the contract details yet, and I am a little bit curious to see where they end up coming out here. But, like, for Josh Jacobs, if he got more money, congratulations to him. I mean, good for him for being able to go get his bag coming off the career worst season. And I don't blame him for wanting to get his money. Like, you should be happy that he's getting his money. But from the Raiders' standpoint, you're going to be able now to build a more complete football team without JJ. Like, it sucks moving on from him. But from a logistical standpoint for football, I do think this is a good move, man. I really do. We're going to get into some other options for the Raiders at the running back position. That's going to be coming up here in just a second, but I do want to tell you about today's sponsor, Prize Picks. And if anybody hasn't started, this link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Just make sure that you use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. It's easy. It's exciting. Daily fantasy sports made easy. All you got to do is pick 2+ players, and then you're ready to go. I want you to get in on the excitement with Prize Picks because it is America's #1 fantasy sports app where you can turn your knowledge into some serious cash. So right now, whether you want to do some NBA, college basketball, maybe a little NHL action, I know that football season, it's over, but that doesn't mean that you still can't sit down and have a good time. So yesterday, for example, my fiance, Alex, she was working a wedding, so I'm all alone all day with my man Chuck. And Chuck and I, don't get me wrong, we were outside, we were playing a little bit. We were playing with the tennis ball, but we were also watching some sports out there. Now, I didn't watch any hockey yesterday. I did watch a lot of NBA, or I watched a lot of college basketball. But for tonight, for somebody out there that wants to make some money on NHL, we asked one of our NHL guys here at Chat Sports. He said this is going to make you money. I'm a New York Islander fan just through my dad, who's an Islander fan. So because of that, I'm going to be watching this game, and I'm going to have some interest in it. I love Prize Picks because games that I would never watch, I have a legitimate interest in. So if you want to go get started, again, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Just make sure that you use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. So the breaking news that's rolling in here is this. Josh Jacobs, he is signing with the Green Bay Packers. We still do not have the contract details yet out on that, but now a lot of people around the nation are wondering, what should the Raiders do at the running back position? Could you potentially look at the draft? Now, I do admit the rankings that you're about to see are a little bit old. These are rankings before the NFL Combine, but it's still just at least a bunch of names. Like, I'll be real, I would re-rank these players very much so. Like, Jalen Wright, I would put a lot higher. Esteem, I would put lower. A guy like Ray Davis, I would move up the board. Will Shipley, I'd move down a little bit. But to me, the running backs that I love in this year's draft, I think Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, Jonathan Brooks are just a few names that you could at least throw out there and keep in mind. Now, if I'm Las Vegas, I am not targeting a running back in round 1, 2, or 3. I'm going to be targeting a back on day 3 alone. So I'm looking at round 5, maybe round 4 is a little bit of a stretch unless one of those guys end up falling. Some other free agent running back targets. This was before free agency started. I made this list here. So Derrick Henry was, if you're going to spend big, like that could have been a name that I said, hey, throw out there if you don't go get Jacobs. Eckler, if you're able to get him at 4.5, 5, he's got ties to Telesco. Deonta Foreman, Antonio Gibson, Eno Benjamin. This was more of a Amir Abdullah replacement. Now that they brought Amir Abdullah back, there's no really need to go get a guy like Eno Benjamin. But overall, I know the free agent market. If I'm the Raiders, I am looking at the draft, and I am going to draft a running back to try to replace Josh Jacobs. Build your offensive line. Your offensive line then is going to be good enough to get by with Zamir White, with Amir Abdullah, and then whatever other running back that you end up taking. Because remember, Telesco said at the NFL Combine, he looks at the running back position as more of a committee. 2 to 3 running backs instead of going out and getting one true bell cow. So here's your opportunity. Be the GM. Since Josh Jacobs did not return, should the Raiders sign or draft a running back? Do you go out and do you sign a guy? If you are saying sign below, I want you to give me the name of the person that you think that the Raiders could potentially sign to replace Jacobs. Or are you team draft? Are you like, you know what, Mitch, I'd rather roll with the draft. I'd rather go get somebody like that. Let me know who it is down below. But here's the thing, man. Josh Jacobs no longer is a member of the Raiders, and it's disappointing for the simple fact of Jacobs was a fan favorite. He was a player that I know that we talked about a lot. He was the face of the offense for multiple years. I mean, he had over 2,000 total yards in 2022. I wish him absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing but the best. But realistically, if it costs more than $10, $11, $12 million, this organization should not be paying a running back. Teams that are Super Bowl caliber teams, a running back away, are teams that I believe should be paying a running back that type of money. I don't think Green Bay's in that type of predicament or in that situation, and they can do what they want. But I am very happy that the Raiders decided to put their concentration and allocate their money to Andre James and Christian Wilkins, building on the interior, building in the trenches, instead of giving that extra money to Jacobs. So, Jacobs, I wish you nothing but the best, man. Best of luck to you with the Green Bay Packers. For more updates here around the Las Vegas Raiders, make sure you give me a follow on IG. Make sure you give me a follow on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. And you know what? We're live right now here on the Raiders. We're breaking down news. And speaking of breaking news, Kirk Cousins, he's going to the Atlanta Falcons. If you missed that, then hey, you're not watching us live. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. Kirk Cousins is going to the Atlanta Falcons, which is kind of good news here for the Raiders. That means another team that was ahead of Las Vegas at pick 13, Atlanta at pick number 8, they're going to decide to go with Cousins, and they are giving him a 4-year deal. So the idea of trading up for Jaden Daniels, maybe it did just get a little bit easier.